It's incredibly easy for a plot twist to make or break a movie. Get it right and you'll have the audience eating out the palm of your hand. But screw it up and it risks derailing the entire film. Now, some plot twists are divisive, and then there are those that simply fail to hit with the vast majority of viewers, leaving just about everyone questioning the thought process of the filmmakers. And that's absolutely true of the following plot twists, each of which landed with a clunky thud at best and dominated much of the discourse surrounding the film. Oh, and here is your spoiler warning. There will be spoilers ahead. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and these are 10 recent movie twists everyone hated. Number 10. Briggs is Jim Phelps Jr., Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The character of Jasper Briggs was introduced in the previous Mission Impossible film, Dead Reckoning Part 1, a US intelligence agent tasked with chasing down Ethan Hunt and his team. In The Final Reckoning, however, we learn that Briggs is actually Jim Phelps Jr., as in the son of Jim Phelps, the duplicitous team leader who was the original film's surprise villain. While certainly a surprising revelation, this also ultimately felt like a half-assed, groan-worthy slice of fan service that Christopher McQuarrie tossed into the movie in the middle of shooting, rather than something that was actually thought out from the beginning. Is it not enough that Briggs is chasing Hunt down because that's his job? The audience needs to believe that he has a personal vendetta for doing so, and one that has a contrived link back to the original film. It felt forced and ultimately added nothing of merit to the story, a rather ironic outcome given McQuarrie's own noted disdain for excess fan service. Number 9. Carver isn't really sick. Fountain of Youth. Guy Ritchie's Fountain of Youth sees siblings Luke and Charlotte Purdue hired to seek out the mythical Fountain of Youth by Owen Carver, a wealthy man who is apparently suffering from terminal cancer, and who wishes to use the fountain to cure himself. Except, there's something profoundly sus about Carver from the moment he first enters the movie. Enough that you'll most likely assume that he's lying about being sick and simply wants the Fountain of Youth's power to exploit for himself. It's so obvious that it feels like we're being set up for a rug pull where Carver really is just a sick rich guy who desperately wants to live. But no. It plays out exactly as you'd expect. In the third act, we indeed find out that Carver isn't sick, but just the most predictable of things, a greedy rich asshole. Who didn't see this coming the moment he entered the movie, and then roll their eyes when it played out 90 minutes later? Number 8. Lena is Eve's sister, Ballerina. Hollywood blockbusters in general are obsessed with creating forced familial links between characters in an attempt to generate some lazy, unearned pathos. And that's precisely what happened in the recent John Wick spin-off Ballerina. At one point, we're introduced to a high-ranking member of the central cult called Lena. And given that she's played by Oscar-nominated actress Catalina Sandino Moreno, it's reasonable to assume that she's going to be doing something of importance here. However, it's eventually revealed that Lena is actually the sister of protagonist Eve, a revelation that feels yanked out of nowhere to try and give the rather lackluster narrative some additional emotional thrust. The twist is basically just randomly dropped into the movie's lap and lent no further context, enough that one could easily believe it was hastily added during the movie's many reshoots. The script does absolutely nothing worthwhile with this reveal, and Lena dies a totally unremarkable death a few minutes later anyway. What was the point of any of this? Number 7. It was all part of Moretti's plan, Opus. A24's new horror film Opus follows journalist Ariel, who is invited to the remote compound of a reclusive pop music legend Alfred Moretti to hear his hotly anticipated new album. But it turns out that Moretti is actually running a cult from the compound, leading to a finale where he urges his followers to partake in a mass suicide ritual by drinking poisoned champagne. Ariel is almost forced to drink until a follower decides to free her, allowing her to escape. We then cut to an epilogue set 2 years later where Ariel has written a book about the cult and visits a still-alive Moretti in prison. Here, Moretti reveals that the mass suicide was actually a hoax and the dead followers were all still alive, having vanished and blended into society at various levels where they plan to keep spreading his teachings. More than this though, Moretti always planned for Ariel to survive the night, so she could write her book and unintentionally contribute to spreading the cult's message to millions of people. Now, while the movie is clearly trying to say something about the media's complicity in championing monstrous people, it's ultimately way too contrived for its own good, transforming Moretti from a vile cult leader into a genius moustache-twirling criminal mastermind. Number 6. Emily's triplet is still alive. Another simple favour. The big twist in A Simple Favour is that Emily isn't actually dead. Despite her drowning death being unambiguously shown to the audience, we learn that she actually had a twin sister, Faith, who she drowned in order to stage her own demise. It's an amusingly bonkers twist, and when sequel Another Simple Favour was announced, many wondered how it could possibly one-up such a wild turn. But when the first trailer dropped, some joked about the prospect of the sequel doubling down on the original twist by confirming that there's a triplet in play. After all, A Simple Favour did confirm that Emily originally had 2 twin sisters, but one of them, Charity, died in the womb. Lo and behold, Another Simple Favour does the exact thing people expected, revealing that Charity is indeed alive and has been behind the growing pile of bodies due to her unhinged obsession with Emily. None of it makes even a lick of sense. And while topping the original twist was always going to be tough, just repeating the same thing again ensured massively diminished returns. Number 5. Anais is the mother, The Accountant 2. The Accountant 2 features a plot twist so outrageously absurd that it upends the movie's entire tone, turning it from an amusing buddy action flick into a genuine cartoon. At the start of the film, we're introduced to an assassin, Anais, who is asked to help locate a Salvadorian family shown in a photograph. But we eventually learn that Anais is the mother featured in the photograph. The big, convoluted truth of the matter is that the woman, Edith, was involved in an accident, lost her memories, and woke up with a case of acquired savant syndrome, allowing her to quickly develop combat skills and basically become a self-trained assassin. Oh, and Edith also had reconstructive facial surgery, ensuring she looks absolutely nothing like her regular self. It's just an avalanche of ridiculous revelations that the audience is asked to buy with a totally straight face. And yet not a single shred of it is even remotely convincing. Had the movie demonstrated a little more self-awareness about how credibility straining this was, it might have worked. But it's dropped on the audience like it's extremely clever, interesting, and logical. Number 4. Demi and Mike are the killers. Hell of a summer. It's a golden rule of the horror genre that if we don't see a character die on screen, then they're almost certainly not dead. And there's a good chance that they actually are the killer themselves. And so it's always frustrating when a horror film underestimates the audience's ability to sniff this out, as is the case with Finn Wolfhard's directorial debut, Hell of a Summer. When influencer Demi is butchered in her cabin, we never actually see her get killed. And after Jason discovers her corpse, he returns with the other campers to find her body suddenly missing. Gee, do you think she maybe isn't really dead and is probably one of the killers? And then there's Mike, another counsellor who is grabbed from behind by the masked killer a little while later. And yet he simply vanishes from the movie without his death ever being shown. So you can surely see where this is going. The killers are indeed later revealed to be Demi and Mike, in an outcome so disappointingly predictable, it seemed like we were being intentionally misled. Number 3. Worth is working with the terrorists, G20. Amazon's junkie action thriller G20 stars Viola Davis as Danielle Sutton, the ass-kicking president of the United States who is forced to fend off terrorists who assault the G20 conference venue. In one of the movie's first scenes, we're also introduced to Joanna Worth, the US Secretary of the Treasury, and the film goes out of its way to mention that Joanna was one of Danielle's rivals for the presidential nomination, implying that it created a rift in their friendship. And at this point, if you've seen more than a few die-hard knockoffs in your time, you should probably instantly peg that Worth is almost certainly going to be revealed to be an accomplice to the terrorists. And of course, that is exactly what happens. In the third act, Joanna is revealed to be the terrorists' inside man, motivated by losing the presidential nomination to Danielle, an outcome most surely saw coming a mile away. Number 2, the henchman is the meter reader, Drop. Drop's central reveal that the person terrorizing Violet with airdrop messages is a man, Richard, who intends to assassinate her dinner date, Henry, is basically fine. But then there comes the matter of the henchman Richard has hired to kill Violet's son, Toby, and sister, Jen, if she refuses to comply. While this henchman could just be some random dude. In the film's climax, as Violet rushes home to fight the masked man, we get an unveiling scene that falls totally hilariously flat. The man removes his ski mask, and the film lingers on his his face as though we, the audience, are supposed to be shocked by his identity. As it turns out, this is actually the meter-reading guy who appears at the start of the movie for a solid 10 seconds, and who viewers almost certainly forgot about the moment he vanished from the film. Given that this reveal doesn't flash back to the meter-reading scene, and the henchman honestly looks like 3 or 4 other characters we encounter during the movie, it's totally on the film for overestimating how memorable his face would be to the audience. Number 1. Sir Jimmy Crystal, 28 years later. It's safe to say that just about nobody saw the shocking twist ending of 28 Years Later coming, where after young Spike says a tender farewell to his late mother Isla and delivers the uninfected baby back home, he heads out to the mainland on his own. In an epilogue set 28 days later, Spike is attacked by a group of the infected only to be suddenly saved by a gang of tracksuit-wearing gangsters who are very clearly styled after disgraced TV presenter and sex offender Jimmy Savile. In a tonally dissonant scene, the gang members acrobatically eliminate the infected while a heavy metal cover of the Teletubbies theme blares out. Because why the hell not? The leader of the gang then introduces himself to Spike as Jimmy, with his cross necklace revealing him to be the very same Jimmy we briefly encountered in the film's 2002 set prologue. It's certainly a provocative ending that's gotten people talking, and the implications of a gang styling themselves after a pre-allegations Savile are absolutely wild. But also, many understandably found it to completely upend the movie's tone, ending it on a gratingly goofy note which arguably undermined the emotion the previous scenes had mustered. Now, there's a solid argument that this scene should have been a mid-credits tease for the next film instead, which probably would have worked better.